For 40 years, the world was nothing more than a collection of sounds and textures. Imagine a life where the sun is merely a sensation of heat on your skin, but never a golden orb in the sky. Imagine a life where the faces of your own mother and father are shapes you have to memorize with your fingertips, tracing the lines of their grief because you cannot see the tears in their eyes. This was the reality for the man born blind. In the bustling streets of Jerusalem, he was a ghost that people walked around. To the merchants, he was a nuisance. To the religious elite, he was a theological problem to be solved. To the world, he was a man cursed by God. He sat daily by the temple gates, a place where the holy and the broken collided. He could hear the rustle of expensive silk robes as the Pharisees walked by, their footsteps heavy with self-righteousness. He could hear the clink of a single copper coin hitting his wooden boulder, sound of pity, but never the sound of kinship. He lived in a social vacuum. People spoke about him as if he weren't there. Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? The question was a constant hum in the air around him. It was a weight he carried that was heavier than his poverty. He was not just living in physical darkness. He was buried under the darkness of a society that believed his suffering was a divine punishment. He didn't ask for a miracle that day. He didn't cry out like Bartimaeus, or push through the crowd like the woman with the issue of blood. He was simply existing in his silence. But then, a new set of footsteps approached. These weren't the hurried steps of a merchant or the arrogant stride of a priest. They were steady. They were intentional. And for the first time in his life, the man heard a voice that didn't speak about him with judgment, but spoke to his situation with authority. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, the voice said. But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him for the first time. His blindness was not defined as a curse, but as a canvas. The healing was not a gentle word or a distant prayer. It was visceral. It was radical. He felt the cool, damp sensation of mud being pressed against his eyelids. It was a strange, humbling moment, the Creator using the very dust of the earth to begin a new creation. Go, the stranger said, wash in the pool of Siloam. The walk to the pool was the longest journey of his life. He had to navigate the city's corridors, guided only by his cane and the echoes of the walls, with mud caked over his eyes. People likely laughed. They likely pointed. He looked more broken than ever. But when he reached the water, when he leaned down and splashed the coolness onto his face, the world didn't just fade in, it exploded. Imagine the sudden, violent rush of color. The deep blue of the Judean sky, the sharp green of the palm trees, the blinding white of the temple limestone. For the first time, he saw the ripples in the water. He saw his own reflection, a face he had never known. But the miracle was only the beginning of the trial. As he returned, his neighbors didn't celebrate. They were confused. They were skeptical. Is this not the man who used to sit and beg? Some asked. Others said, no, he only looks like him. The man stood in the center of their doubt and declared, I am the man. He was no longer a ghost. He had a voice. The religious leaders were summoned. They didn't see a miracle. They saw a violation of their rules. It was the Sabbath, and to them, the healing was a work. They interrogated him, trying to force him to call his healer a sinner. They brought in his parents, who were so terrified of being cast out of the synagogue that they refused to stand up for their own son. He is of age, they said, trembling. Ask him. The man who had spent his life in the shadows suddenly found himself standing in the searing heat of a legal trial. But something had changed inside him. The physical sight had given birth to a spiritual clarity. When they pressed him again, demanding he denounce the man who healed him, he gave one of the most powerful testimonies in history. Whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. They cast him out. They threw him back into the street, officially banishing him from the religious community. He was an outcast again, but this time he wasn't alone. Jesus found him. In the quiet after the storm of the trial, the light of the world stood before the man who could finally see him. "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" Jesus asked. The man looked at the face of the one who had touched the mud. He saw the eyes of the one who had seen him when everyone else looked away. "Lord, I believe," he said, and he fell down and worshipped. He had lost his place in the synagogue, but he had found his place in the kingdom. He had lost the approval of the Pharisees, but he had gained the vision of the Almighty. The man who was once a theological problem had become a living testament to the fact that God does not look at our brokenness as a barrier, but as the perfect place to start a miracle.